What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Got another Week 6 preview prediction video up for you here. And this one, I feel like maybe flying under some people's radar. Not everyone's. There are some people talking about this game, but I feel like it's flying under the radar a little bit, and I think we need to talk about it because it's a battle of unbeatens in Columbus, Ohio. We got the Maryland Terrapins coming off a 5-0 start, going on the road to face the 4th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes fresh off of a bye week. Should be a very entertaining one to watch in Columbus, Ohio. We'll tell you everything you need to know in this one here in a second. But for starters, those of you that have been on my channel before know I got some business to take care of. I just want to thank you guys for the support the channel is seeing. It means a lot to me. If you want to continue to show your support, the biggest way to do so, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. But guys, there are more ways than that to help me support this channel. You guys are doing one of them right now just by watching this video. And gladly, if you guys are willing and able to, I encourage you to do more. Like, comment, share, anything else you guys can think of to help support this channel does mean a lot to me. But enough about me. Let's now focus on the matchup that we're going to see this Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. Maryland is coming off the 5-0 start, so the September Maryland narrative is still here. Can that September success transfer into an early October upset, or are the Buckeyes going to be fresh, going to be ready, and going to look really good coming off of their bye week? A lot of things we can talk about in this one. Let's dive on in to the stats first, right? Again, don't know what's happening with my slides today. They've been weird. But let's take a look at the stats that both of these teams have put up so far this season. We are going to start with the road team as usual, and that is the Maryland Terrapins. What more can I say about this Maryland offense? It is dynamic. It is elite. They're led by one of probably the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire country, Taulia Tagovailoa, the younger brother of Tua, the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. 1,464 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Those are the lone 3 turnovers that Maryland has this year on 65.7% completion percentage. He's got a ton of talented weapons out there to work with. Jay-Sean Jones, Ty Felton, Caden Prather. You have the tight end and Corey Daiches, apologies if I said that last name wrong. All those guys have at least 18 catches, 200 yards, and at least 1 receiving touchdown as well, spreading the wealth around to a lot of different weapons here. It's going to really spread this Ohio State secondary out, but they're also running the ball really, really well. Roman Hemby, you got guys like Colby McDonald, Antoine Littleton. They're all running it really, really well. And even Taulia himself has 3 rushing touchdowns this year. It's a Maryland offense that can do it all, yet this is going to be their biggest defensive test, and we'll talk about why here in a second. But speaking of defense, let's transition over to the defense that we're going to see from the Maryland Terrapins, because honestly, guys, it has been really impressive so far this year. If you have not watched a Maryland football game, albeit they haven't really played anyone spectacular, but if you have not watched a Maryland football game yet this year, I'll go on here and say no. I have not watched the Maryland football game from start to finish, but I have watched this team in parts. This is a Maryland defense that is very, very, very crafty, and they create pressure. They have 12 turnovers on the season already. I'll go ahead and pull up those numbers here for you. 8 interceptions, 4 fumbles, and you know what? They forced 4 fumbles. So every fumble they forced, they've ended up recovering as well. 13 sacks so far on the season. They're averaging 2.6 sacks per game, and you know what? They're coming from everywhere. It's not just 1 or 2 guys that are generating sacks. No, it is a ton of pressure coming from each and every angle. There are a ton of guys that can be able to create pressure to the quarterback here, to Kyle McCord in this game. For the most part, though, again, this is definitely going to be Maryland's best defensive test too, right? Or I should say best offensive test for their defense. Regardless, it's going to be Maryland's best test by any stretch of a mile, maybe throughout the entire season, right? When you look at the matchups here. But this is a Maryland team that can move the ball offensively. Taulia is playing with his hair on fire, and it's a defense that's forcing negative plays, forcing takeaways, and that's really helping their offense out as well. But let's go ahead and move on to the Ohio State Buckeyes side, where we need to talk about this offense. And it was an offense that earlier in the season was getting questioned, and it was saying, oh, this young quarterback, I don't know if he has what it takes to be able to utilize the weapons that are around him. A lot of questions about the offensive line there as well. Well, let me answer some of those for you. If you did not watch that Notre Dame game, you've probably seen highlights of at least the final drive. Kyle McCord really grew up there in that final drive. You don't just go drive down the field in a road game and in Notre Dame Stadium unless you are a guy. Kyle McCord proves he is a guy. He's got the best skill position room in the entire country. At the very least, has the best wide receiver room in the entire country, led by the star Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka there as well. The tight end Cade Stover really playing well, Julian Fleming, and I could go on and on. And then you got Travion Henderson running like an absolute workhorse for this team as well, with Chip Train and Mayan Williams secondly behind him. It's an offense that also got questioned on third down. That started to improve in that game there against Notre Dame. And the offensive line was really able to handle the pressure that Notre Dame was able to bring really well. They've only allowed 4 sacks so far this year. And while, yes, the offensive line can still improve, this is an offense that I think we're going to see continue to mature as the season goes along. But man, the storyline of this Ohio State team has been the silver bullet defense. Wow, look at those numbers from a year ago. If you look at these numbers from this year, if you were to look at those numbers, or at least coming into the year, said, hey, Ohio State through 4 games is going to average this, I probably would have looked at you and told you, yeah, okay, nice try. That'll take some work to do. This is the Buckeye defense that I think I saw something that said this is the only defense in the country that is not allowed a play of 40 yards or more yet this season, which is absolutely crazy. They're one of the few teams in the country that allow teams to score under 10 points per game. 255 yards per game is also one of the top marks in the entire country. Now, the one thing about this Ohio State defense that Buckeye fans have been saying is the defensive line needs to be able to do a little bit more, not only in the rush defense, which honestly has been really good so far this year, but also generating pressure. Only 5 sacks for the Buckeye defense this year. That's 1.25 per game. You'd probably like to see that number jump up. And this is the Buckeye defense that, yes, has not been creating turnovers, but they haven't had to. The secondary's really stepped up, played really, really well. This is probably the best linebacking room Ohio State has had since maybe 2019, even if you go back to that national championship year, right? This Buckeye defense is well improved, going to give this Maryland offense a good test. The Maryland offense will give the Buckeye defense a good test as well. But it leads me into my keys for the game. What to watch for, just some things I think you guys should watch out for when you are watching this game. Talia and company are ready to ball out. This is a Buckeye defense that did get tested a couple weeks ago here against Notre Dame and Sam Hartman, and you know what? They handled it really, really well. And Sam Hartman, much like Talia, is a very experienced quarterback. So Talia coming in here with experience. Now, this is not a Maryland team that's really taken a lot of deep shots down the field so far. It's been a lot of quick routes. The veteran quarterback in Talia is getting the ball out quickly, and this Buckeye defense is going to have to be ready for that. Expect a little bit of a run game here from Maryland as well. And the Terrapins, look, the Terrapins have very underrated line of scrimmage play. The offensive line, very underrated. They've done a very good job of protecting Talia and opening up holes for the run game all season long. The defensive line, I mean, you go back and look, they're generating 13 sacks this year. That is underrated. The Buckeyes faced really, really good line play there against Notre Dame. Now, I'm not saying Maryland's is better, but Maryland's is definitely underrated. It's something that I think Ohio State's going to struggle with. We'll see if Maryland's going to be able to win the line of scrimmage if they can be more physical up front than what the Ohio State Buckeyes bring to the table. And if you are Maryland, keep forcing those turnovers. Create extra possessions. Get the ball out of the hands of this offense that hasn't maybe shown to be as dangerous as it has been in years past, but don't let that fool you. This offense is still dangerous. If you can create some turnovers, that's exactly how upsets happen. Go on the road, create the extra possession that you need to go win this game. Now let's talk about keys for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Kyle McCord will continue to, and I put this in soft quotes, grow up, right? We really saw him mature and become a dude late in that game against Notre Dame, and I think Kyle McCord's only going to continue to progress and maybe become a really, really good quarterback this year, but the offensive line has to start to do the same. Yes, they've only allowed 4 sacks so far this year. Yes, the run game is running really, really well, but this is where you start to get really nitpicky with the Ohio State Buckeyes. The offensive line can definitely do a little bit job at pretty much everything. Now, they did a really good job at handling the pressure that Notre Dame was able to bring. That has to continue here, as this is a Maryland defensive line that also likes to bring a lot of pressure. Now, obviously, this Buckeye secondary is going to be tested. It's been one of the best secondaries in the country, and a lot of Buckeye fans are really impressed with the way that Denzel Burke has come along and played. But there's a ton of talent in this secondary. The Buckeye secondary and this Maryland wide receiver room and Talia Tungavailoa making the throws, that's a matchup that I cannot wait to watch. But this is, I think, going to be the best test. Maybe you can go back and look at a couple weeks ago and say that was going to be their best test. In my opinion, this is probably the best test here for the Ohio State Buckeyes in terms of what their secondary has to do, because it is a lot more of a pass pass-heavy attack, and the defensive line has to be able to create more pressure. The Buckeyes are going to need more out of their defensive line if they're going to want to comfortably win this game and avoid a scare, because that's what Maryland can provide, is a scare. I do not think it would be crazy if Maryland came on the road and gave Ohio State a little bit of a shocker. I think it'd be a little crazy for Maryland to go on the road here and win. I do not think Maryland is going to go on the road and upset the Buckeyes, but they have the formula they need to be able to do so. If they force Ohio State to make mistakes, Maryland has the better quarterback in this game. Talia is the better quarterback in terms of experience, skill, and just everything I've seen when you compare him to Kyle McCord. But the Buckeyes have too much talent offensively. That defense has been playing really, really well. I expect Maryland to give the Buckeyes a fight and really be able to push this Ohio State team. Maybe they create a couple turnovers here, but I think the Buckeye defense stands too tall. Kyle McCord continues to grow up, makes too many plays, and the Buckeyes will walk away with a win, albeit maybe a little bit of a scary win here in the Horseshoe. Let me know what you guys think about this game in the comment section down below. And hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.